Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching me from. Once again, my name is Kufre Iyang, and I've been off for a while, and I'm back. So I'll try as much as I can to bring up the little that I can. Because remember that I've always said, and I'm a beginner, and so the people who are listening to me too could actually know better than me. And so where I get wrong, I'm always open for suggestions. But today, I sat down and I was thinking of security and why we really need it. And then imagine that you just launched a company, you have employees sending emails, sharing files, and collaborating with teams. Everything works perfectly in the company. Then one morning you're waking up to see that an employee's account has been hacked. Confidential emails are exposed. Customers' informations have been leaked. Businesses operations stopped automatically. It's really scary. And the scary part is it could have just been prevented with just 2 clicks. And that's the reason why I have brought this today. And so today I'll be looking at Microsoft 365 security fundamentals. I will specifically be looking at MFA multi-factor authentication and conditional access, which is always our first line of defense. And so please stay with me while I walk you through the basics of MFA. And when I talk about MFA, I'm talking about multi-factor authentication and conditional access. I'll try as much as I can to get to the most basic way to help us understand what I'm talking about. And so I will love to share my screen so we can walk through this together. So just a bit while I share my screen. All right. If you can see my screen, um, I welcome you again to this session. So whether you are an aspiring Microsoft 365 administrator, whether you are an IT professional, or you're a business owner is managing your own Microsoft 365 environment, I want you to know that this session is for you. So today we'll be looking at two parts of the most important features that Microsoft 365 has, just like I said already. The first is the multi-factor authentication, which is abbreviated to MFA. And the second part is the conditional access. I want you to know that these two controls can dramatically reduce the chances of your organization being compromised. Now, let's look at it from the security mindset. Let's look at it from the security mindset. Now, security starts just on one day. Now, one thing you need to know, and the key point you need to know here is that users can be productive immediately. Attackers can also target you immediately. Security must be enabled from the start. So there is nothing to say, I'll do it later, because attackers are always there and waiting to attack. So when we create a Microsoft 365 tenant, just like I had explained in my last session, the focus is usually on getting people working quickly. So we create users, we assign licenses, we set up emails, we configure teams for those who need. Everything looks great. But here's the reality. Attackers don't wait for you to do all this. The moment your environment becomes accessible online, it becomes a target. So as administrators, our responsibilities isn't only to make systems work. Our responsibility is also to make them safe. So why Microsoft 365 accounts are always targeted? So for instance, um, Let's look at this way. Email accounts contain really sensitive information. That's one thing we have to know. One compromised account can affect as many users. Yeah, because we are interconnected. So for a staff in my company being affected by their email, it means that I would be affected because, yes, you type, maybe you start with a K, it's going to probably first put my email out, which means that I could be compromised because it's the same organization. It means that the emails there can actually easily be accessed. So cloud services can also be accessible from anywhere. So Microsoft 365 accounts are extremely valuable to attackers. I want you to think of this about this as about everything inside a user's account, like the emails, like the documents, like the contacts that are there, like financial information, especially for those in the account section, and then for company conversations. Once an attacker gains access to one account, they try to move across the organization. Now, there's a danger when you actually leave your company's accounts to be on default settings. Default settings from Microsoft Direct does not mean that your company is totally secured. That's one thing we have to know. It does not mean that default settings makes us secured. So security must always be enabled from the start. Now, many organizations believe that because Microsoft created the tenants, it's already or it must already be secured. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. And that's not true. A password alone is no longer enough. Hackers use automated tools that can test thousands of passwords every minute. This is called password spraying. So that's an attacker will always be there trying passwords every minute to see if this works. If this doesn't work, the other one should work. That's called password spraying. So if a user chooses a weak password or falls for a phishing email, the attacker may gain access immediately. That's one thing we have to know. That is one thing we have to know. So passwords, first of all, must be, must be, I'm still using the word must be really, really secured. It must not be weak. So like I talked about, so password spraying, automated tools test thousands of passwords per minute. Phishing attacks happens daily and are increasingly convincing. Weak passwords, one bad choice can open the door immediately to another security breach. Now, let's look at the real world scenario. First of all, an employee receives a fake Microsoft login page. Employee enters the password from here. Attackers sign into the account. Emails are downloaded. Data is exposed. I'm looking at these as a typical example of, first of all, an employee receives a fake login page, enters the password that has been sent. Attackers are the ones that are doing it. They've signed in silently. They take control. It means that the data of the organization is already exposed. Okay, so this is an example of what I am talking about. So that single mistake could expose customers' information, financial records, and confidential communications in matters of minutes. So imagine this happening. That single mistake can cause problem to everybody in the organization. And so at this point, I'll be introducing MFA, multi-factor authentication, which is your 99% shield. I repeat, it is your 99% shield. Now, one thing you need to know that multi-factor authentication means providing your identity using more than one factor. Providing your identity, proving your identity using more than one factor. I want you to think of it like it's like a house. In a house, the key protects the door. But what if someone steals the key? Now imagine the house also requires your fingerprints. You know, you have a key is stolen. You know that you have to open the door with the key. But what if the key is stolen? You make another factor that someone will always require your fingerprints. That's what I'm talking about. So even with the key, the attackers still cannot enter the house. That is exactly the way multi-factor authentication works. That is how it works. So something you know, your password, something you have, your phone, inside your phone, or not it's always an authentication app, something that's is within your body, like your fingerprints or your biometric. Now, so it's still a way of introducing multi-factor authentication, or a way to stop hackers from accessing your accounts. So first of all, in step one, as you can see on the screen, the password is stolen. The attackers attempt to log in step two. Microsoft requests a second factor. Because a second factor, attackers cannot approve. Access is denied. That is what we can see there. So this is the magic of MFA. So even if your password is stolen through phishing or through a data breach, the authenticator will still need access to your phone or any authenticator application. Without being gotten, the account will be blocked, just like we have here on the stage 5. Now, let me show us. This is a live. This is a demo. First of all, I'm going to walk you through each of the screens. I will be going to Microsoft the Admin Center, which will do that on another day. But at the moment, I'll be showing you screenshots of what you'll be expecting. So first of all, you sign in with your username and password. Microsoft requests a second verification step, and then you approve it. So which is what we'll be having in the next. So first of all, in this screen, this is the sign-in screen of Microsoft. Microsoft asks you to sign in with your email, and then you sign in with your email. You enter your password. You enter your password. It prompts you. This prompt appears and asks you that and tells you that, oh, we've sent a notification to your mobile device. Please open the Microsoft Authenticator app to respond. And then when you open your Microsoft Authenticator app on your phone or any device that you have it installed, you're going to have something like this. So notice that after entering that password, Microsoft asks for a second. Your password is your password, but why didn't it let you go through in the first place? It requires that second security to confirm that it is you. So Microsoft asks for this second verification step. So I receive it on my phone and approve it just like you have here on the screen. So this is a typical thing that you have. Now, these are the benefits of using a multi-factor authenticator. Every admin should enable an MFA. Every admin. The benefit is that it gives you stronger security. It reduces phishing risk. It is better for compliance. It gives you more confidence and it gives you less stress. So one of my favorite things about MFA is that it gives you peace of mind. As an administrator, you should sleep better knowing that stolen password alone are no longer enough. I hope you've followed me through while I talked about MFA, because I'll be leaving MFA and I'll be talking about conditional access. Question is, what is conditional access. Now, if MFA is your lock, conditional access is your intelligent security guard. So instead of treating every login the same way, Microsoft evaluates conditions before granting access. Let me break down what I talked about. Now, you look at the screen here. Just look at the screen here. Now, conditional access is, we'll always ask, where is the user logging in from? What device are they using? Is the location trusted? Is the sign-in risky? So based on these questions, these answers, the answers you're going to give access, whether be granted or blocked. A typical instance is, for instance, I just log into my account now in Uyo at 3 p.m. and in 3:20 or in 3:30 p.m. I'm logging to that same account in the United States. Originally, questions must be asked. Is this really the same person? So when things like that come up, Microsoft sees that as there is something wrong because this is an impossible login. You cannot leave Nigeria Uyo at 3 p.m. and be in United States in 3:50 or even 4 o'clock. It's not possible. So conditionally, Microsoft will say that this is not true. As a result, it will block that login attempt. For instance, also, you're using a company laptop at this point, and then the next time someone else is trying to log in from another point, Microsoft will always say, no, I don't understand. So conditional access always asks questions like, where is the user logging in from? What device are you using? You're logging in now with a phone. The next time you're logging in with a laptop. The next time you're logging in with a tablet. Is the location trusted? Is the sign-in risky? These are things that Microsoft asks about, especially that's what we call conditional access. So based on these questions, based on the answers that you give, access can either be granted or blocked. So just like I had explained, so this is the real life scenario where a login of 3 a.m. is logging, and then the next time you're seeing it in another place. So this is an instance. So suppose an employer logs in here, the next time he logs in there, just at the same time, and then it's possible to be in this place at that time. So here's how administrators create conditional access policy. First of all, we'll do this in another session. On your intra-admin center, you're going to navigate to the protection and conditional access. Then you create a policy to either block or allow based on the locations. You'll be looking at that in a more practical session. Now, let's see another point. Now, neither of these solutions replaces each other. That's what I want you to know. MFA does not replace conditional access. Take MFA as a lock. Take conditional access as a security guard. That's what you need to know. They don't replace each other. MFA verifies identity. Conditional access evaluates the risk that's involved in that login. So when they work together, they form that strong security, which are the foundations that are available in Microsoft 365. Now, one thing I want us to take away as we will be moving towards the end of this slide is that we should understand that default settings are not enough for security in a company. Don't say that Microsoft is a good company. Yes, we all know. But don't take those default settings that Microsoft have actually made default to be the only thing you'll be using for your company. Please enable MFA, conditional access, and every other kind of security. I need you to also know that passwords alone are very vulnerable. That's one thing you need to know. MFA blocks most accounts compromised at attempts. So when accounts are compromised, and then Microsoft does not understand how it comes. MFA blocks it until we get the correct thing. I've had an instance like that last week. I had to call that my password be resetted. Conditional access provides intelligent protection. That's one thing you need to know. So it's always important to create your conditional access. Security should always start immediately. Please don't wait for something to happen before you actually put up your security. Let security always start immediately. So one thing I want you to know that security is a day one priority. Don't always wait for security to be done later. A secure tenant is a quiet tenant. That's what you need to know. So as we conclude today, I want you to remember that security isn't something you add later. Security starts from day one. A secure tenant, like I said, is a quiet tenant. So, and a quiet tenant means fewer incidents. It means fewer emergencies. It means there's more time to focus on growth and innovation for a company. In part two of these training, we'll go directly into Microsoft 365 Admin Center, where we could look at how to set up MFA conditional access. I want to thank you for joining me today. And I'd like you to take this question. So how many times have you actually, as an admin person, set up MFA in your Microsoft 365 environment? Have you ever experienced a phishing attempt? What security challenges concerns you most today? I also like you to take this home. Should MFA be mandatory for every organization, just like what I've said today? I'd like you to share your thoughts in the comment section. Who would like a step-by-step MFA setup guide in the next session? If this is you, then I'll be waiting to hear from you. Thank you for being part of this session today. Do have a great day.